A village rising from the ruins of a devastating flood suddenly finds itself trapped in a darker storm, one not of nature, but of human greed and betrayal. Officer Lee's generous funds meant to rebuild Sam's farm mysteriously vanish, leaving the community torn apart by suspicion. Whispers turn into fear, and fear uncovers a chilling plot to burn Sam's farm to ashes and erase all traces of the theft. Who could be behind such ruthless schemes? Stay with us to uncover the truth, and don't forget to subscribe to follow this gripping story of trust, loss, and survival. After the devastating flood that had swept away homes, fields, and the fragile peace of the village, a new glimmer of hope appeared in the form of an unexpected savior, Officer Lee. Known not only for his stern sense of duty, but also for his compassion toward the people he served, Lee did something few in his position would have dared. He opened his own resources, gathering a significant sum of money to support the survivors. It was not simply charity, it was a lifeline, a promise that the village could rise again from the mud and ashes left behind. Among those in desperate need stood Sam, a humble farmer whose entire livelihood had been swallowed by the raging waters. Lee, touched by Sam's quiet resilience and determination, entrusted a portion of the funds to rebuild his farm, believing that once the soil was tilled again and the barns stood tall, the entire community would find strength in that symbol of rebirth. The money was stored carefully at Sam's newly restored farmhouse, a place chosen for its familiarity and because the townspeople trusted Sam as one of their own. The villagers gathered to celebrate this turning point, hearts swelling with gratitude toward both Lee and the vision of a brighter tomorrow. The thought of freshly planted seeds growing under the sun, animals returning to their stalls, and children laughing once more around the farm filled the weary people with courage. For the first time since the floodwaters receded, smiles replaced tears and laughter began to echo across the fields. Hope, fragile but radiant, lingered in the air like the first light after a storm. Sam himself felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. The money was not his alone. It was the collective hope of an entire village entrusted to him, not just as a farmer, but as a custodian of their dreams. Each morning, he would glance at the chest where the funds were kept, reminding himself of the trust Officer Lee had placed in him. He dreamed of rebuilding his barns stronger than before, planting healthier crops, and turning his farm into a sanctuary where neighbors could gather, work, and heal together. But beneath his determination lurked a quiet fear that such hope, shining so brightly, might also attract shadows. And though no one could foresee it then, that very fear would soon become a haunting reality, unraveling the fragile peace they had just begun to rebuild. News of the missing funds spread through the village like wildfire, igniting whispers that quickly grew into heated accusations. What had once been a place bound by shared grief and resilience was now consumed by doubt. The money, entrusted with such care, had vanished without a trace. How could something so vital, stored so deliberately in Sam's farmhouse, simply disappear? Neighbors who had shared meals during the flood now exchanged wary glances, their words laced with suspicion. Each person silently measured the other, wondering who among them could have betrayed the fragile trust built after the disaster. The villagers, who had stood shoulder to shoulder against the raging waters, now found themselves divided by invisible walls of doubt. Sam bore the heaviest weight of all, Though he had done nothing but guard the funds as promised, the mere fact that the money was in his home placed him at the center of the storm. Rumors spread quickly. Perhaps Sam had taken the money for himself, or perhaps he had been careless and allowed thieves to slip in under the cover of night. Sam's heart twisted with anguish at such accusations. He had dreamed of the farm's revival not just for his own family, but for the entire community. Yet now, every glance cast his way seemed to pierce him with unspoken judgment. Officer Lee, equally shaken, was determined to uncover the truth. He launched a discreet investigation, questioning villagers and searching for clues, though the absence of evidence only deepened the mystery. The disappearance of the funds was more than a theft. It was a fracture in the delicate fabric of unity he had worked so hard to stitch together. Each passing day without an answer added fuel to the fire of suspicion, and the once hopeful village began to unravel. Mothers pulled their children closer, conversations ended abruptly when certain names were mentioned, and the warm sense of kinship that had blossomed after the flood withered under the shadow of mistrust. It was as though an unseen hand was turning the villagers against one another, fanning the flames of fear and anger. Sam lay awake at night, listening to the creak of the rebuilt farmhouse, wondering if he was being watched. The trust he had once cherished now felt like a curse, for every whisper of blame seemed to echo through his walls. And in the silence of those nights, with the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on him, Sam began to fear that the theft was not a simple act of greed, but part of something darker, an unseen plot that threatened not only his farm, but the fragile spirit of the entire community. But the shadows that had crept into the village carried more than whispers of theft. They hid a far more sinister plan. One cold night, as the autumn wind swept across the fields, Sam noticed an acrid smell in the air, faint but unmistakable: smoke. His pulse quickened. For weeks he had endured the sting of suspicion, but now his greatest fear seemed to be coming true. Someone wanted not only to steal the money, but to obliterate the very evidence of the crime by reducing his farm to ashes. If the barns, the farmhouse, and the chest where the funds had been stored were destroyed, no one could ever prove what had truly happened. The thief would vanish behind a curtain of flame, leaving Sam to bear the full weight of guilt. Sam rushed into the darkness, his lantern trembling in his hand, and there, near the wooden beams stacked for repairs, he spotted a trail of kerosene. The realization struck like lightning. This was no accident. Someone had carefully laid the groundwork for a fire meant to consume everything. His breath caught as the flicker of a hidden torch appeared in the shadows, wielded by a figure cloaked in the night. For an instant, Sam thought of confronting the intruder, but the danger was too great. One spark could destroy all that remained of his life's work. The next morning, he confided in Officer Lee, who listened with grim silence. If Sam's account was true, then the theft had escalated into a calculated scheme to shatter the village beyond repair. Lee vowed to protect the farm at all costs, stationing watchmen at night and quietly expanding his investigation. Yet the revelation of arson cast an even darker pall over the community. Who could harbor such malice? To steal from neighbors was a crime, but to burn down the farm, the very heart of their recovery, was an act of cruelty beyond measure. Fear spread like a second flood through the village. Families locked their doors earlier than usual. Lanterns flickered nervously in windows, and conversations turned hushed whenever the possibility of arson was mentioned. Sam felt torn between dread and determination. Though his farm had become the target of an unseen enemy, he refused to let it fall. With every board he repaired, every seed he planted, he silently vowed that the farm would stand, not just for himself, but as a beacon for the whole community. And as Officer Lee's investigation pressed deeper into the shadows, both men knew the truth was close at hand. Yet they also knew that the closer they came to unmasking the culprit, the more dangerous the game would become. Somewhere among them, hidden behind familiar faces, lurked a hand ready to strike again.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Tử Sam Review. Rất vui vì ngày hôm nay lại được gặp lại các bạn trong câu chuyện ngày hôm nay. Trong câu chuyện ngày hôm nay thì thật không may là trang trại của Lý Tử Sam đã bị một kẻ xấu lên kế hoạch đốt cháy, và số tiền mà cảnh sát Nhi dùng để hỗ trợ những nạn nhân do lũ lụt và hỗ trợ việc xây dựng lại trang trại mới cho Lý Tử Sam đã không cánh mà bay. Liệu rằng kẻ nào là người đứng sau cái vụ trộm và vụ đốt cháy nông trại này của Sam? Tất cả sẽ được hé lộ vào các tập tiếp theo, sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Các bạn hãy bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều vì đã luôn dành sự tình cảm cho kênh của mình. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn. Bye bye.